Pei Qin and I were both reborn at the same time. In this life, he knew in advance that he would one day become a high-ranking official of the third rank. He knew in advance that he would become a favorite of the new emperor, and his only regret from his previous life was that he never married his childhood sweetheart. So without hesitation, he abandoned me, who was in the middle of our wedding ceremony, to go find his childhood sweetheart who was about to be exiled, and I, without crying or making a fuss, chose to let it be. When I saw Pei Qin throw down the red silk in his hand and turn to leave, I realized that I had been reborn. The attending guests gasped in surprise and confusion. Pei's father, who was waiting for Pei Qin and me to bow to the elders, stood up angrily. "You unfilial son, where are you going?" "I know where he's going. Pei Qin has a white moonlight in his heart, his childhood sweetheart, on the night of our wedding." Liu Susu's father was imprisoned for a crime, and the Liu family was raided, with the rest of the family members awaiting exile. The next morning, Liu Susu sneaked out and went to the Pei family to seek help, but Pei's father was unwilling to get involved in trouble, so he gave a small amount of silver and sent the person away. Instead, Pei Qin was unwilling to accept this and went everywhere to help the Liu family, even skipping the day of returning to my family with me. Considering that the Pei and Liu families had been friends for generations, I didn't say much. I even covered for him, fearing that my parents would blame him. But I never expected that as soon as I returned to the Pei residence from my parents' home, Pei Qin brought Liu Susu before me and proposed to take her as his concubine. Pei Qin said, "Ayun, Susu and I have known each other since childhood, and we are as close as siblings. I truly cannot bear to see her suffer the hardship of exile. So I wish to take her as my concubine. Saving a life is more meritorious than building a 7-story pagoda. Ayun, you are kind-hearted by nature and surely cannot bear to see a weak woman suffer and lose her life. Right, don't worry, I only see Susu as a sister, and she will only be my concubine in name. There will be nothing between us, the only one I love is you, Ayun." And Liu Susu stood by sobbing, looking fragile and pitiful, tugging at everyone's heartstrings. The Liu family had committed crimes, but married daughters were not implicated. As long as Liu Susu married, whether as a wife or a concubine, she could escape the fate of exile. However, with the emperor's decree of punishment, everyone avoided the Liu family like the plague, and no one dared to marry a Liu daughter. Only Pei Qin, who was deeply infatuated with Liu Susu, rushed headlong into the troubled waters. Pei Qin claimed to treat Liu Susu as a younger sister. But the way he looked at her was clearly the gaze one reserves for a beloved, just as I had once looked at him. Before the marriage, I had no idea that Pei Qin had someone he loved. My family, the Xie family, is a distinguished lineage of officials. My father is the current prime minister, holding a high position of power, with disciples and old acquaintances spread throughout the court. The Xie family is both feared and regarded with caution. After sensing the emperor's intention to arrange a marriage between me and the crown prince, my father urgently instructed my mother to arrange a marriage for me, forbidding me from marrying into the royal family. Pei Qin was the newly appointed Tanhua, third-place scholar in the imperial examinations, with a moderately respectable family background but exceptionally handsome looks. It was not difficult for an elegant and refined gentleman like him to captivate a young maiden in the bloom of youth, making her fall in love at first sight. After the marriage between the two families was settled, Pei Qin frequently sent gifts to the Xie residents. Sometimes it was wildflowers picked by the roadside during outings outside the city, other times it was the most fashionable rouge and powder in the capital, or perhaps a new dish he had tasted while socializing, which he would purchase and have his attendant deliver to the residents while still hot for me to enjoy. Besides sending objects and food, Pei Qin would also write letters to me, describing the amusing events that happened daily in the capital and the gossip he heard from his colleagues. His writing was vivid and full of witty remarks. It made me find him extremely interesting. Before we got married, Pei Qin even made a solemn vow in front of my father, swearing that he would never take a concubine in this lifetime. At that time, I genuinely admired Pei Qin. The moment the words "take a concubine" were spoken, I became furious. I neither refused nor agreed to Pei Qin's proposal. Instead, I had someone invite Pei's father and mother, and also summoned my own father to come. How could the Pei family allow their son to offend the current prime minister for the sake of a daughter of a disgraced official? So, Pei's father immediately called for the family discipline and gave Pei Qin a severe beating. My father also spoke up with a threat. If Pei Qin insisted on taking a concubine, he would have me divorce him. In the end, it was Liu Susu herself who, with fierce determination, chose to return home and wait for exile with her family. Pei Qin was angry with me for several days, and it was I who couldn't hold back and gave in first. I spent money and effort to help the Liu family make arrangements, ensuring they wouldn't suffer too much on their journey into exile. I also went home and begged my father, who promised me that after a few years when the situation had calmed down, he would arrange for Liu Susu to return to the capital. This prevented Pei Qin from making a grave mistake, and he finally reconciled with me. However, not long after, I received news that Liu Susu, unable to endure the hardships of exile, had taken her own life on the journey. Pei Qin fell seriously ill after learning the truth, and when he woke up, it seemed as if he had come to a realization. He said, "Blame her father for his corruption, blame her for her unfortunate fate." After that, Pei Qin never mentioned Liu Susu or the Liu family again. He is exceptionally good to me. He cooks for me, applies my makeup, and never once complains about my years of infertility. He even takes the blame when Mother Pei criticizes me for failing to continue the Pei family line. In return, I ask my father to support him in court, manage his household affairs, and build connections with other noble ladies. Thus, Pei Qin, not yet 30, had already attained the third rank in officialdom and became a favorite in the new emperor's court. I thought we would spend our lives together in love and harmony. It wasn't until my father suddenly passed away, my elder brother died unexpectedly, and my younger brother was unjustly accused of treason, leading to the execution of the entire Xie family, that I realized Pei Qin had never forgotten Liu Susu's death. That was the thorn in his heart, and he placed all the blame on my Xie family. Pei Qin burned me to death with a single fire. He said, "Xie Yun, you and your Xie family owe Susu a blood debt that must be repaid in blood." I was still thinking about how to stop this marriage, but I never expected Pei Qin to act much faster than I did. Seeing how eager he was, I guessed that he had also been reborn. Pei Qin did not answer his father's words and continued striding forward. Father Pei's tone was furious. "Pei Qin, how dare you?" Mother Pei also anxiously spoke up. "Qina, can't you handle whatever it is after you finish the wedding ceremony?" The guests in the hall were also whispering among themselves, mostly watching the drama unfold. Pei Qin seemed to wake from a dream, finally willing to turn around, and said to his parents, "Father, Mother, I have urgent matters to attend to immediately. I will explain everything to you when I return." Then he looked at me and said, "Ayun, be good and wait for me. I will come back to marry you as soon as I finish my business." This was a very young and handsome face, yet the tone of his speech already carried the habits of someone who had reached the pinnacle of power many years later, instinctively giving orders and commands. In my past life, looking at this face filled me with joy, but now, as I look at it again, my heart is overwhelmed with hatred. Wishing I could tear him to pieces, I threw the red silk in my hand and removed the wedding fan, staring directly at Pei Qin as I questioned him. "Pei Qin, are you going to abandon this marriage in public?" I used the question to mask my hatred, showing just the right amount of anger on my face. Pei Qin offered no defense, only frowning slightly in displeasure. "Ayun, I don't have time to indulge your whims right now, be good." With that, Pei Qin strode toward the door. My expression turned cold. "Pei Qin, I don't care what urgent matter you have. If you don't explain yourself clearly today, don't even think about stepping out of this door." The servants I brought from my family's home stepped forward one after another, blocking Pei Qin's path. Since he cares so much about his childhood sweetheart, I'll give him a hand and let everyone know about their deep affection. The guests who came to offer congratulations were also eager to witness the excitement, eagerly waiting for Pei Qin to speak. Pei Qin's brows furrowed with anger, his tone displeased. "Xie Yun, must you cause a scene with me right now? I don't have time to indulge your nonsense right now. We'll talk about everything when I get back." Pei Qin forced his way out of the house under everyone's watchful eyes. I gave a signal and arranged for someone to follow him. Pei Qin had left, but I still had to fight the remaining battles well, with many guests present. Although the Pei family's son was unkind, Pei's father, despite his anger, had no choice but to apologize and appease the crowd. Mother Pei wanted to quickly end the farce and directly ordered the servants, "Someone, quickly escort the young mistress to the bridal chamber to rest." I immediately interrupted Mother Pei, my eyes reddening. "Lord Pei, Lady Pei, you have already seen Pei Qin's attitude just now. I was merely asking for a reason, and he accused me of making a scene. I grew up being cherished and pampered in the Xie family. I don't have to marry him." I bowed slightly to the crowd that had not yet dispersed. "I ask all esteemed guests to bear witness and accompany me to see what urgent matter has befallen the young master of the Pei family. Who doesn't enjoy watching a spectacle, especially when it involves a heartless man?" As soon as I spoke, many voices rose in agreement. With reddened eyes, I feigned strength and walked ahead, leading the bustling crowd straight to the Liu residence. Guided by the servants, we arrived just in time. The imperial decree of condemnation had already reached the Liu family. Pei Qin was holding Liu Susu's hand at the Liu family's doorstep, saying to the leader, "Susu is my concubine now, no longer a daughter of the Liu family." As soon as Pei Qin finished speaking, he turned around and saw me rushing over. He opened his mouth. Seemingly guilty, or perhaps wanting to explain, I forced out tears and, before Pei Qin could speak, said to him, "Pei Qin, so the reason you wouldn't marry me was to go out and take a concubine?" Then, with a sorrowful expression, she closed her eyes and let the tears fall, her voice filled with grief. "Fine. If that's how it is, then I'll step aside for you. Let's break off the engagement. From now on, the Pei and Xie families will have nothing to do with each other." After saying this, she turned and left resolutely, giving Pei Qin no chance to stop her or argue. The Liu Susu whom Pei Qin cherished for a lifetime, even valuing her above the lives of my entire family, was ultimately only worthy of being a concubine. How ironic. The guests who came with me never expected there would be such a spectacle to witness. Some were having their homes raided, some were taking concubines on the spot, and others were tearfully breaking off engagements. Tonight's excitement is just the beginning. The real drama is yet to come. As expected, Pei Qin publicly abandoning me, the daughter of the Prime Minister, for the daughter of a disgraced official quickly became the talk of the entire capital. Some people pity me for my ruined reputation. Some people curse Pei Qin for being a heartless man. The common people are buzzing with discussions, but the real battlefield is in the imperial court. When the Liu family was convicted, Pei Qin insisted on taking a daughter of the Liu family as his concubine, which was no different from showing contempt for the emperor, a serious crime. Memorials from Pei Qin and his father piled up like snowflakes before the emperor. The once promising Tanhua, third-place scholar, lost the emperor's favor, was removed from the Hanlin Academy, and demoted to a minor 8th-rank official. Even his father was implicated and reprimanded for failing to discipline his son properly, resulting in a salary deduction. The price the Pei family paid for a guilty concubine became a popular topic among the common people and even served as a cautionary tale for officials educating their unfilial sons, overshadowing the scandal of my broken engagement. It was worth the effort of calculating the timing to have Pei Qin storm out of his home and then coincidentally arrive with witnesses just as he was taking Liu Susu as his concubine, allowing the guests to witness the deep affection between him and his beloved. That day, I was entertaining guests in the mansion. My personal maid, Chunhua, rushed in anxiously. "Miss, it's terrible. That scoundrel Pei Qin has come with betrothal gifts, saying he wants to propose to you again." Chunhua's face was twisted with anger. "Miss, he even brought that concubine along with him. He clearly has no respect for our Prime Minister's residence or for you." They deliberately made a scene with gongs and drums, attracting a crowd of onlookers. "Miss, are you going to see them?" I hadn't even spoken yet when a light chuckle came from beside me. "Miss Xie, it seems your former fiancé hasn't learned his lesson yet. Would you like me to step in and have him driven away for you?" My guest was none other than the current crown prince, Xiao Hongzhou, the same prince who, in my previous life, ended up disabled, driven to madness, and executed after a failed rebellion. It was precisely because the crown prince died early that Pei Qin was able to assist the second prince in ascending the throne, earning his merit as a loyal supporter. If Pei Qin didn't have someone backing him up, even if he wanted revenge, he wouldn't dare lay a hand on my father. in this life, I will cut off Pei Qin's hope from the root. I declined the Crown Prince's kindness, Your Highness. I can handle such a small matter myself. As for the rest, Your Highness may proceed as we have discussed. I arrived at the main gate with Chunhua, and the area outside was crowded with people. The betrothal gifts brought by Pei Qin stretched out in a long line along the street. Pei Qin, dressed in red, stood out prominently on his horse. When he saw me appear, he called out to me with a smile in his eyes, Ayun, his eyes brimming with tenderness, his features as beautiful as a painting. And his joyful call left me momentarily dazed, as if I had returned to my previous life, before I saw his true nature, when I still liked him wholeheartedly. But this daze lasted only a moment. Pei Qin gracefully dismounted from his horse and walked up to me. Ayun, you're being naughty. I told you to wait until I finished my business before the wedding, yet you caused such a big scene. I know you're angry, but I won't dwell on the past. Today, I've come again to propose marriage. And I'm sure I can quell the rumors about you being jilted. Are you happy? Ayun, Pa, who do you think you are, daring to call my young lady by her name? As soon as Pei Qin finished speaking, Chunhua angrily cursed at him. Listening to Pei Qin's shameless words, I sneered inwardly. It seems he's been the emperor's favorite for so long that he still hasn't realized his current situation. I said with a mocking tone, dwell on it. You think you're worthy, Pei Qin. It is only because I nodded that you can have a marriage contract with me. Otherwise, you wouldn't even be qualified to step foot at the entrance of my Prime Minister's residence. Guards, drive this stray cat and dog out. If they dare to resist, break their legs directly. The servants standing guard at the Prime Minister's residence immediately took wooden clubs as thick as a wrist and began striking at Pei Qin. Unable to resist, Pei Qin had no choice but to retreat step by step. Accompanying him, Liu Susu, under Pei Qin's instruction, knelt before the steps and tearfully kowtowed to me. Please, sister, do not take your anger out on my husband. It is all my fault. I am the one who has wronged you both. Sister, my husband truly loves you. Even though you caused him to be expelled from the Hanlin Academy, he holds no grudge against you. He has even carefully prepared betrothal gifts to propose to you once more, if you truly cannot tolerate me. As long as you agree to marry my husband again, I will willingly go to the nunnery to devote myself to Buddha and never return to the Pei residence for the rest of my life. Liu Susu wept as if drenched by rain, her words filled with pitiful sorrow. Chunhua was so angry she could barely contain herself, planting her hands on her hips and shouting furiously, "What a shameless pair of adulterers! You two have engaged in illicit relations without a matchmaker. And now you even dare to drag my young lady into it. As for that filthy place you call the Pei family, aside from a lowlife like you, who would even want to marry into it, beat them, drive them all out." The servants of the Prime Minister's residence, upon receiving the order, immediately began to strike at Liu Susu. Pei Qin, however, instinctively wrapped his arms around her, taking a blow on her behalf. My eyes met Pei Qin's furious gaze, and I heard him say, "Xieyun, don't forget. Our engagement hasn't been called off yet." I sneered disdainfully. So what? My mother sent people to the Pei family several times to break off the engagement and retrieve the betrothal documents, but each time they were turned down with various excuses. I knew it was all under Pei Qin's orders. Pei Qin knew all too well how he had risen to the highest ranks of officials in his previous life. Without the support of my Xie family and my strategic planning behind the scenes, he was far from reaching the position of a third-rank official. Pei Qin also knows that I admire him, so he thinks that after causing a scene and then softening his attitude toward me, I will obediently let him manipulate me again. Therefore, even though the Pei family has borne much criticism and Pei's father struggles in the court, the Pei family still refuses to let go of the marriage arrangement with me. The marriage was not called off, and Pei Qin even came to cause trouble today. My mother was so angry that she decided to go to the palace and ask the empress to help find me a better match, thereby completely severing the marriage ties with the Pei family. Unexpectedly, the imperial consort sent an invitation before the empress, inviting me to a flower viewing event. The imperial consort is the biological mother of the second prince. Pei Qin acted really fast. All the sons and daughters of officials ranked 5th grade and above in the capital were invited. Perhaps because of the scene Pei Qin caused later at the entrance of the Prime Minister's residence, No one really gossiped about me to my face. The flower viewing banquet, though named as such, is actually an occasion for young gentlemen and ladies to either make a name for themselves or to seek potential matches. The women compete in beauty and charm, while the men showcase their literary and artistic talents, creating a lively and bustling scene. I had no intention of participating in any of this, yet, someone simply refused to leave me alone. The imperial consort summoned me to her side as soon as she arrived. Holding my hand, she spoke with great familiarity. "I've heard that the Prime Minister's wife has been quite worried about your marriage lately. How about I act as your matchmaker?" Before I could refuse, the imperial consort beckoned and called someone forward. It was Pei Qin. Pei Qin and the imperial consort exchanged greetings. Then he smiled at me, a Yun. All eyes from every direction were fixed on me. The imperial consort said, "Xie Yun, you are the legitimate daughter of the Xie family. I know you had a small disagreement with Pei Qing a few days ago, but which man doesn't have 3 wives and 4 concubines? I believe you are a broad-minded, gentle, and generous woman. A mere concubine is just like keeping a cat or a dog. Getting angry with your future husband over this is putting the cart before the horse. Pei Qing, despite his youth, has already achieved the rank of Tanhua. He is both talented and handsome. Moreover, he genuinely admires you. To ask me to arrange this match, he knelt for a full half day, which deeply moved me, and that is why I agreed to this matter. If you miss this excellent match, I fear you will regret it deeply in the future. Today, would you be willing, for my sake, to reconcile with Pei Qing?" After the noble consort finished speaking, Pei Qin immediately stepped forward, bowed to me, and presented a vibrant and delicate crabapple flower. "Yun, I was wrong about what happened before. I am willing to accept any punishment. I only ask that you give me another chance. My feelings for you, Yun, are as clear as the sun and moon, and as evident as heaven and earth. If there is even a single false word in this, may I be struck by lightning and die a miserable death." Pei Qin was a skilled actor. At this moment, his gaze was filled with deep affection, and his face was full of cautious anticipation, as if he had lowered himself to the dust, as if a single careless word from me could shatter him completely. If I hadn't been reborn, I might have believed in his sincerity, but he can act, and so can I. I looked at Pei Qin, my eyes reddening, and questioned him with a sob in my voice. "Pei Qin, is this what you call sincerity?" Repeatedly putting me in an awkward position. I glanced around, letting Pei Qin see the faces of those watching the drama unfold. "How could I dare accept such sincerity from you?" Pei Qin wanted a crowd. He intended to apologize to me in front of everyone, feigning deep affection, so that through public opinion, he could pressure me into agreeing to marry him. This, however, gave me room to counterattack. I bowed to the imperial consort and said, "Your Highness, please forgive me. I understand your kindness. The matter between Pei Qin and me has nothing to do with that concubine. I don't care about her, but I simply cannot bear Pei Qin repeatedly disregarding my dignity in the name of affection. I must take my leave now." As I was leaving, Pei Qin grabbed my wrist. With a sorrowful expression, he asked, "Ayun, what must I do for you to forgive me?" I casually pointed to the pool beside me. "Jump in." Pei Qin didn't wait for me to finish speaking before leaping into the water. He couldn't swim and choked on several mouthfuls of water. Even then, he didn't forget his purpose. "Ayun, I jumped, watching Pei Qin's disheveled state. I felt a slight sense of satisfaction and finished what I had left unsaid. "Drown, and I'll forgive you." Of course, Pei Qin couldn't bear to drown himself, but because his rescuers weren't quick enough, he fell seriously ill upon returning. The incident at the flower viewing banquet, where I made him jump into the pond, once again became a topic of idle gossip, and as he wished, he managed to regain a bit of his reputation for deep affection by stepping on me. No longer the target of public scorn as he once was, because of this deep affection, he was valued by the second prince and became a genuine supporter of the second prince, being heavily relied upon. A woman, once her engagement is broken off, is immediately tarnished in reputation, as if she deserves to die, while a man, after breaking his promises, first takes a concubine and then marries a wife, and with a few false words of devotion in front of others, is praised by everyone again. This world is truly unjust. Because the Pei family had aligned with the second prince, The Empress issued a decree to annul my engagement with Pei Qin. Pei Qin was busy handling affairs for the second prince and had no time to bother me. Instead, his concubine often came, initially standing at the entrance of the Prime Minister's residence to express Pei Qin's heartfelt feelings and lament his difficulties. As Pei Qin successfully completed several tasks for the second prince, who had recently gained favor, Pei Qin's status rose accordingly, and Liu Susu's tearful pleas for forgiveness turned into boasts. Boasting about what Pei Qin bought for her today, a pearl hairpin, tomorrow some fragrant powder, and the day after rare and precious fabrics. Although she was only a concubine, her life was more comfortable than that of many official wives in the capital. Liu Susu became the envy of many people. Chunhua was so anxious on my behalf that she cursed Liu Susu every day, calling her a vixen. I smiled and reassured her. Alright, let's not stoop to her level, the real show is yet to come. On the eve of the Mid-Autumn Festival, Princess Ningen invited me to go to Tianhua Temple outside the city to pray for blessings. Accompanying us were several noble ladies from the capital, including Qin Shuiyao, the daughter of the Grand General, and Du Qi, the daughter of the Minister of Works. Tianhua Temple was crowded with worshippers, packed with people from all around. After offering incense in the temple, Qin Shuiyao, Du Qi, and I got separated from the others. We simply found a less crowded spot to sit and have some snacks, planning to wait until the worshippers dispersed before regrouping with the others. But I had only taken a few bites of the snacks when I started feeling dizzy. Out of the corner of my eye, I noticed several black-clad figures with knives flash by from behind, and the next moment, I lost consciousness. When I woke up again, we were in a dilapidated house, the three of us tightly tied to a pillar. Several burly, bearded men stood in the room. The men held knives and grinned lecherously. We're in luck today, we've captured a few young ladies from wealthy families. Look at their delicate skin and tender flesh. It'll definitely be a thrill to have some fun with them. One of them threw his knife aside and began unbuckling his belt. Don't worry, young ladies, we're just here for a bit of fun. Once we've had our fill, we'll have your families pay a ransom to get you back. We won't kill you. Is your body feeling weak? In a moment, I'll make you even weaker. A group of people, laughing lewdly, rushed toward us in a frantic scramble. Du Qi, who had just opened her eyes, screamed in terror and cried out for help. Then she was slapped hard across the face. You little wench, what are you screaming for? Even if you scream your throat raw, no one will come. Someone grabbed my hand, and someone else tried to tear off Qin Shuiao's clothes, but before they could get close, Qin Shuiyao kicked them away. As the daughter of a great general, if she hadn't been deliberately drugged with a muscle relaxant, she would never have been at the mercy of others, waiting for some hero to save her. In the middle of Qin Shuiao's fight with the bandits inside the room, someone broke through the door. Seize him. The person who arrived was the Crown Prince. I looked at Du Qi and saw shock in her eyes. The bandits left only one survivor, the rest were all killed. When the fight ended, another group of people appeared at the entrance, the second prince and Pei Qin. In her previous life, Qin Shuiyao, the daughter of the general, along with Du Qi and a group of noble ladies, went to Tianhua Temple to offer incense when they were unexpectedly kidnapped by a few mountain bandits. It was the second prince who brought people to rescue them. To repay the life-saving favor, Qin Shuiyao became the second prince's consort, and Du Qi also became the second prince's concubine. With the support of these two powerful forces behind him, the second prince's influence began to overshadow that of the crown prince. In reality, Qin Shuiyao and the crown prince had long been in love with each other, only waiting for the imperial decree to grant their marriage. The second prince used Qin Shuiao's reputation as leverage and also used her to keep the Qin family in check, forcing the Qin family to support him. I glanced at Qin Shuiyao, who was being asked by the crown prince if she was all right. In this life, I naturally intend to help them get together. The plan had changed, and the second prince's expression turned grim, but he still went to Du Qi to put on a show. Pei Qin also walked over to me, his words filled with concern. Ayun, are you all right? I rushed over as soon as I heard something happened to you. You scared me to death. Pei Qin tried to hug me, but I kicked him away. I cut the rope myself and said to Pei Qin, you disgust me. In my previous life, I wasn't sure who came up with this hero saving the beauty plan, but in this life, it was undoubtedly Pei Qin. In my previous life, I had already married Pei Qin and was busy managing household affairs for him, preparing the mid-autumn gifts for various families. So I simply had no time to come and offer incense for blessings. I only learned about the matter between Qin Shuiyao and the second prince after hearing it from Qin Shuiyao herself. At that time, Pei Qin was not familiar with the second prince, and it was I who informed him of the grudges between them. Now it has become his means to curry favor with the second prince. Pei Qin looked quite hurt by the disgust in my eyes, but when he saw the small knife in my hand, his expression turned to confusion. "Ah Yun, why do you have a knife?" I toyed with the knife and looked up provocatively. "Guess." Pei Qin was both shocked and suspicious, his expression strange, and he didn't speak to me again on the way back. He didn't stop me until I got out of the car, his eyes red as he questioned me. "Yun, have you come back too?" I kicked him again. "Get lost. If you're sick, go see a doctor. Don't go crazy in front of me." Of course, I wouldn't admit it, it's not the right time yet. As I entered the house, I heard Pei Qin shouting from behind, "Yun, you are mine. We are husband and wife in this life and the next, and no one can tear us apart." I shook my head, thinking he must be crazy. Pei Qin's brilliant idea for the second prince successfully brought a loving couple together. Not long after returning from Tianhua Temple, the emperor arranged the marriage between the crown prince and Qin Shuiyao. As for the second prince, Du Qi was promoted from a concubine to the principal consort. The Du family was overjoyed, but the second prince's face turned as dark as could be. Perhaps dissatisfied with the marriage, the second prince made a series of mistakes over the following period and was reprimanded by the emperor several times. The emperor's attitude made the second prince appear quite anxious, and this anxiety did not ease until the day of the autumn hunt, by the emperor's grace. Officials of the third rank and above were permitted to bring their families along to the autumn hunt at the imperial retreat. I was traveling with my mother and the other womenfolk. On the way, I also saw Liu Susu, who was sharing a carriage with Du Qi. It seems Pei Qin truly dotes on her, even on such an occasion. A minor official's concubine like her could come along. I didn't pay much attention to Liu Susu, but I never expected that after arriving at the resort palace, she would actively seek me out. The first words she spoke to me were, "Miss Xie, you know perfectly well how deeply Brother Qin adores you. He has kept the position of his principal wife vacant for you all along, and his allegiance to the second prince is all for the sake of securing your future. Why must you insist on opposing him at every turn? Miss Xie, it's time to stop. You should be content with what you have." Her words actually made me laugh. Securing my future. I am the daughter of the Prime Minister. What need do I have for a petty 8th rank official to secure my future? Is he even worthy? As for the position of principal wife, it's even more laughable. Aside from you, who dreams of becoming Brother Qin's principal wife? Ask any noble lady in the entire capital who would even look twice at a faithless, worthless man like him. Miss Liu, I don't have anything against you, so please don't flaunt yourself in front of me. I was about to turn and leave when Liu Susu grabbed my sleeve and knelt directly before me. Liu Susu sobbed as she spoke to me. "Sister, I know everything happened because of me. I'm the one who ruined the relationship between you and Brother Qin. As long as you agree to reconcile with Brother Qin, I will end my life immediately." Liu Susu was quite resolute. As soon as she finished speaking, she stood up and made to run into a tree. She didn't hit the tree but ended up colliding with Pei Qin's embrace. Liu Susu wept and lamented for quite a while. "Brother Qin, just let me die. If I die, you and sister can reconcile, and you won't have to suffer like this anymore." Pei Qin held Liu Susu in his arms and comforted her for a long time, finally coaxing her into a smile before she gave him a kiss, bringing the matter to an end. Chunhua, beside me, covered her eyes while sneaking glances and muttered softly, "Miss, will we get styes from watching this?" Ignoring the provocation in Liu Susu's eyes and not wanting to know what madness had driven these two to such a scene, I pulled Chunhua away. "Yes, we will. Let's avoid looking at such filth." Pei Qin, who had just released Liu Susu, blocked my path. "Yun, I told you. You will be mine. Just wait a little longer. Soon, I will come to marry you." He had a look of determination in his eyes. Likely very confident that this autumn hunt would yield great results. I smiled faintly. "Is that so? Then I'll be waiting." On the day the autumn hunt officially began, the crown prince encountered a fierce tiger in the mountains and narrowly escaped death. The tiger had been lured by someone and specifically targeted the crown prince. The emperor was furious and ordered a thorough investigation. This investigation led directly to the second prince. The second prince had ordered the release of a ferocious tiger in an attempt to take the crown prince's life. Among the emperor's 3 adult sons, the third prince was frail and sickly, born with 6 fingers, and had been excluded from the line of succession since birth. The other princes have not yet grown up, so the second prince only sees the crown prince as his sole rival. If the crown prince were to die or become disabled, the throne would be his. In the previous life, that autumn hunt took place 5 years later than now, the emperor was even older. And the remaining sons had either died young or become ill and turned into fools. The crown prince lost a leg after being mauled by a tiger and became disabled. The emperor actually knew who the culprit was, but he still let it pass lightly because the second prince was the only son left who was intact and capable of inheriting his throne. In this life, the emperor is in good health, the crown prince only suffered minor injuries, and the princes below are all safe and sound. Therefore, the ruthless and scheming second prince, who attempted to kill his own brother, was severely reprimanded and placed under house arrest, forbidden to leave without an imperial decree. The imperial consort was also implicated and demoted to the rank of noble lady. With the second prince losing power, the factions that had aligned with him suffered heavy blows and were replaced by officials appointed by the crown prince. Pei Qin came to me again. This time, he brought a definitive answer. Ah Yun. As I suspected, you've been reborn just like me. Pei Qin's eyes were filled with complexity, a mix of sorrow and nostalgia. Ah Yun, you hate me, don't you? I'm sorry. The anger I had suppressed since my rebirth could no longer be contained. I raised my hand and slapped Pei Qin hard across the face. Do you think a simple apology can erase everything that happened? I will never forget the heart-wrenching pain of being engulfed by flames and burned by the fire. I approached Pei Qin. Pei Qin, you harmed my father and brother, falsely accused my younger brother of treason, and caused my entire family to be executed. Shouldn't I hate you? Pei Qin raised his hand and slapped himself. Ayun, it's my fault. I deserve to die. Then go die, I said without hesitation. Pei Qin was stunned for a moment and tried to explain. Ayun, I have my reasons. Please listen to me. I didn't want to listen and interrupted him directly. Pei Qin. The only thing left between us is a fight to the death. Now, you have only one path left, the same path you took in your previous life, the one that forced the crown prince to his death. In the previous life, the crown prince's beloved was taken from him. He lost a leg and was disqualified from the throne, and the father he had always revered, for the sake of so-called greater good, refused to punish those who harmed him. How could the crown prince not go mad? The emperor probably wanted to give the crown prince one last shred of dignity, which is why he never deposed him. The crown prince's followers then urged him to rebel. The second prince, who had long anticipated everything, slaughtered the crown prince's followers under the guise of rescuing the emperor. Even the crown prince died at his hands. Not long after that palace coup, the emperor passed away, and the second prince ascended the throne smoothly. Pei Qin looked sorrowful. Ah Yun, you know full well that the path ahead is a dead end. I laughed and said, of course I know. I want you to walk knowingly into a dead end, otherwise, how can we honor the souls of the hundreds of my Xie family who perished? Pei Qin sighed and reached for my hand. Ayun, stop this nonsense. The struggle for the throne among the princes is no child's play. It's not something you should meddle in. It's true that the second prince ordered the execution of the Xie family. But he is diligent and dedicated to governance, a ruler praised by all. You are so determined to leak information to the crown prince. But how do you know that if the crown prince ascends the throne, he won't be just like the second prince and have your father and brothers killed? The Xie family's power is too great. No emperor can tolerate such a presence. When I worked for the second prince, I already secured a pardon from him in advance, as long as you agree to marry me. Once he ascends the throne, if Prime Minister Xie willingly accepts death, he will show mercy and spare the rest of the Xie family, and you will not be implicated. I took a few steps back, distancing myself from Pei Qin. What a joke. A prisoner still expects my father to willingly go to his death. Pei Qin. Are you stupid? Or am I? Ah Yun, The second prince hasn't completely lost. Don't persist in your delusion any longer. Pei Qin waved his hand and called over a group of people. Take them away, the maid too. My maid and I were seized by the arms. Pei Qin repeated his usual refrain. Yun, be good. Once everything is settled, I'll let you out, and we'll get married. We were locked by Pei Qin in a pitch-dark secret room, fully equipped with everything, clearly prepared in advance. After being imprisoned, Pei Qin often came to see me. Every time he came, he would reminisce with me about the past, recalling the loving days we once shared. He would bring a handful of wildflowers, telling me where he picked them, and what poem we had composed in our previous life for the same bunch of wildflowers, or a plate of pastries, saying how happily I smiled when I ate them. After sending gifts for 7 days, Pei Qin brought a wedding dress. Yun, in your previous life, you wore this wedding dress to marry me. You looked so beautiful. After tonight's success, let's get married again. Okay. Before I could speak, he hurriedly left again. But this time, Pei Qin didn't stay away for long. In less than half an hour, he ran back to the secret chamber covered in blood. He was injured, his eyes filled with disbelief. I've already locked them up, so how could I still lose? Because you're foolish, I thought to myself. If I hadn't deliberately allowed myself to be captured, how else could I force you to rebel so quickly and make you believe you would win? No one gave him the answer. Pei Qin rushed over and forced me to change into the wedding dress. Yun, let's bow and become husband and wife. As long as we complete the ceremony, we will be husband and wife. Tomorrow, I will take you back to the Xie residence. Your father won't let you be without a husband. Yun, please put on the wedding dress. Okay, I know you love me the most, and you are the one I love the most. Let's get married. We'll get married right now. Pei Qin seemed to have gone mad. His only obsession being to force me into the wedding dress and bow with him in marriage. I refused, and he actually tried to lay hands on me, but before he could touch me, someone kicked him from behind, sending him crashing into the wall before he landed heavily on the ground. Qin Shueyao, the maid who had been imprisoned with me, stepped on Pei Qin's chest and turned to ask me, Yun, what should we do with this scum? I looked at Pei Qin, who was lying on the ground spitting blood, and calmly uttered 2 words, burn him. Qin Shueyao found a rope to tie up Pei Qin and dragged him outside. The backup had already arrived. The Pei residence had been purged, and it was now entirely guarded by Qin family's personal troops. I had someone drag Pei Qin to the very room where he had burned me to death in my previous life. At the brink of life and death, Pei Qin was no longer insane, only lying on the ground weeping. Yun, we are both reborn, yet you are merely an inner chamber wife. In my previous life, I rose to the 3rd rank official and was deeply trusted by the emperor. How could I possibly lose to you? How could I lose? Pei Qin couldn't understand. I crouched in front of Pei Qin with a freshly lit candle and gave him the answer. Because you are too greedy, you want power, you want fame, and you want people. But I am different, I only want you dead. Pei Qin clutched his head in agony. So that's how it is, he asked me again. Yun, if I hadn't left you to find Su on our wedding day, would you have? No, I answered resolutely. I would never forgive you, not ever. I lit the bed curtains with a candle, and the flames spread like a dragon, rapidly engulfing everything. I threw the candle and turned to leave. Pei Qin was screaming my name inside the room, begging me to spare his life, saying he knew he was wrong. Not long after, a heart-wrenching, agonized roar came from inside the room, no different from the one I had let out in my previous life. The last sound was Pei Qin saying, Yun, I know how much pain you were in now. I'm sorry, I didn't answer. Only when it was almost burned down, I had someone come to put out the fire. As long as the ones who deserved to die were burned, that was enough. We couldn't involve other houses. After the second prince's rebellion failed, he committed suicide on the spot. The second prince's followers were also purged. The Pei family, the Du family, and even Liu Susu, the concubine, were implicated. What a pity. Pei Qin was reborn, yet still failed to protect his childhood sweetheart. Useless man. After this incident, the emperor fell seriously ill and never fully recovered, subsequently ordering the crown prince to oversee state affairs. A year later, the emperor abdicated, and the new emperor ascended the throne. After ascending the throne, Xiao Hongzhou summoned me to the palace and asked what reward I desired. Your Majesty, I do have a request. I wished to request a pardon token for the Xie family. This was not a good suggestion. The newly enthroned emperor, not yet fully adept at concealing his emotions, slightly furrowed his brow. Xiao Hongzhou said, "You have rendered great service, and I will be honest with you. The power of the Xie family has become excessive. I was born into a noble family, yet I do not wish to share the world with the nobility. Do you understand?" I nodded and said, "I understand, Your Majesty. I will ask my father to resign from his post and retire to his hometown with our family." Only a young emperor would say such things, and only from a young emperor could I seek this pardon token. Xiao Hongzhou still agreed, and even showed exceptional grace by allowing my elder brother and younger brother to remain in the capital. My elder brother did not have to resign from his official post, and my younger brother could continue his studies at the Imperial College, preparing for the imperial examinations in the future. At least it wasn't all for nothing. Before the Xie family returned to their hometown, Qin Shuiyao came to see me off. "You made such great contributions, yet in the end, your entire family has to return to the countryside. Ayun, are you truly content with this?" In the secret chamber, Qin Shuiyao heard many stories about my past with Pei Qin, but she never asked a single question. She is a trustworthy person, so I told her the truth, just laying low for now. After all, I am someone destined for great things. She laughed and said, "Then I'll be waiting." In the first year of returning to my hometown, I established a private school for girls, naming it the Xie Family Girls' School. 3 years later, the Xie Family Girls' School gained fame all the way to the capital. I returned to the capital and opened a girls' school at the foot of the imperial city, inviting the empress to serve as its principal. 3 years later, the empress issued an edict allowing women to enter the court as officials. That year, when the imperial examination results were announced, students from the girls' school were among those on the list. In this world where injustice prevails against women, it is up to women themselves to fight for their rights. As for matters of love and affection, having them is acceptable, and not having them is also acceptable. After hearing the first story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see. I am to marry the Marquis of Shenping in just 3 days. Yet, my brother gave the wedding dress left by our mother to my cousin Ruyan to try on. Ruyan shortened my wedding dress by 2 feet, and it no longer fits me. She tearfully explained, "I just thought it would look better shorter. I didn't expect it would upset you." "Sister," my elder brother said, "it's just a wedding dress. Is it worth getting so angry over? Just go buy another one from the tailor shop." Upon hearing this, Lord Shenping also said, "Anyway, I've agreed to marry you. What difference does it make which wedding dress you wear?" Being so stubborn and unreasonable, where is the dignity of the future Lady Shenping? Go apologize to Ruyan, otherwise, in 3 days, you won't be worthy of stepping into the gates of my Shenping manor. We might as well call off the engagement. With that, he even threw down the token of their engagement. I endured everything in silence until the wedding day, when the third prince rode a tall horse himself to welcome me as his consort. My elder brother and the Marquis of Shenping, however, panicked. Slap! I struck Ruyan across the face, my eyes blazing red. "How dare you? How dare you cut short the wedding dress my mother left me? Who do you think you are?" Ruyan slumped onto the stool, covering her face as she looked at me. "Sister, it was too long for me, and I thought it would look prettier if I shortened it. I even embroidered flowers on the hem for you. I didn't expect it would upset you like this. If you don't like it, I can sew the cut parts back on for you." I looked at the shortened wedding dress, feeling as if my heart were being cut by a knife. This was the wedding dress my mother had embroidered for me before she passed away, dragging her seriously ill body to do so. Every stitch was filled with her love for her daughter, but now it had been cut like this, with mismatched patterns sewn at the bottom, making it look utterly ridiculous. My personal maid, Yuna, cried and said, "Miss, what should we do? The wedding is in just 3 days, and the wedding dress has been ruined." She glared at Ruyan, her teeth gritted with anger. "Cousin, how dare you touch my lady's wedding dress? How dare you? You're just a servant. How dare you speak to your master like that?" My elder brother strode in. He looked at Ruyan with tears in her eyes, his heart aching unbearably. When he saw the red marks on her face, his eyes blazed with anger. "Tanga, you've gone too far. It's just a wedding dress. If it's cut, it's cut. We can just buy another one." Was it necessary to resort to violence? You know how important appearance is to a woman. Is a wedding dress more important than Ruyan's face? Holding back tears and clutching the wedding dress, I looked at him with disappointment. This was my mother's hard work. Yet he treated it as nothing, only caring about Ruyan's face and those few tears. Ruyan is a distant cousin of our family. When her parents passed away, she had no one to raise her. During a visit to our hometown to pay respects to our ancestors, my mother took pity on her and brought her back with us. From that time on, my brother slowly began to change, constantly saying, "Ruyan has a pitiful background, you should be more accommodating to her. You are a young lady of noble birth. You have everything, why do you still need to compete with Ruyan? Ruyan just likes your courtyard, what's the harm in letting her have it? Isn't it the same no matter where you live?" I closed my eyes, tears streaming down, and choked out, "Brother, you know very well that this is the wedding dress mother left for me, the one she finished embroidering while she was ill. It contains so much of her effort and love. You know how important it is, so why are you letting her try it on? Is she getting married or is she getting married? She knew she was too short and skinny to fit into it, and she took it upon herself to ruin it, and now you're saying I'm being too harsh." Only then did my brother see the state of the wedding dress. It was completely unwearable. He immediately became flustered. Ruyan tugged at his sleeve. "Cousin, I really didn't mean to. I just had never seen such a beautiful embroidered dress and couldn't resist trying it on. I really didn't mean to." Seeing her cry, my brother's heart softened. He looked at me and said, "Since you can't wear it anymore, let's save this wedding dress for Ruyan to wear when she gets married in the future. I'll send someone to the clothing store right away to buy a new one, so it won't delay your wedding." Ruyan was brought back by mother's decision, and she is just like our own sister. Giving her the wedding dress would fulfill mother's wishes. I looked at him with disappointment. Which noble lady, when getting married, doesn't prepare her dowry from a young age? It often takes a year to create such a dignified and honorable wedding dress, embodying a young woman's hopes and importance for her future marriage. Very few people would buy a wedding dress from a ready-made clothing shop, unless they come from a humble background or a family that has fallen into decline. I held the wedding dress tightly. "This is the wedding dress mother left for me. Don't even think about making me give it to anyone." Ruyan sobbed and said, "Cousin, please don't say that. It's not that I'm worthy of wearing it. I'm just an orphan girl. How could I ever compare to my cousin?" Amid the commotion, a servant came to report, "The Marquis of Shenping has arrived." The Marquis of Shenping, Cheng Jian, walked in and was taken aback by the scene. Her elder brother explained briefly, "Please talk some sense into Tanga, she's becoming more and more willful." Cheng Jian looked down at me from his superior position. "Anyway, I've agreed to marry you. What difference does it make what wedding dress you wear? If you keep making such a fuss, how can you possibly carry the dignity of the future lady of Shenping Manor? You and Ruyan grew up together since childhood. Yet you actually had the heart to hit her. I truly underestimated your cruelty. I've long told mother that you're not as gentle and virtuous as Ruyan. However, out of respect for our childhood engagement, I'm giving you this honor. Since you're about to enter my Shenping Manor, you should learn to restrain your temper." Ruyan looked at him with tearful eyes. "Brother Jian, please don't blame sister. It's all my fault. I was being thoughtless." Cheng Jian wiped her tears with a handkerchief. "Don't cry anymore, or your eyes will hurt again tomorrow." My elder brother instructed the servants, "Quickly bring a cold cloth to soothe her eyes." I looked at these two people who had doted on me since childhood. One is my own elder brother, and the other is my fiancé. Both of them are wholeheartedly helping Ruyan. Yes, in their eyes, only Ruyan is the one they favor the most, fragile, gentle, like a dodder vine, evoking their pity. I remembered when the Marquis of Shenping came to deliver the betrothal gifts, 48 cases in total. When the gifts were opened, Cheng Jian specifically instructed, "These cases contain fabrics in colors that suit Ruyan best, give them to her. This chest of jewelry is also for her, and this box of painted fans for her amusement, and these shoe brocade shoes, you just run around in them and waste them, so it's better to give them to Ruyan." All the betrothal gifts were carried, one after another, into Ruyan's courtyard. Anyone who didn't know better would have thought that the Marquis of Shenping was marrying Ruyan. "Apologize to Ruyan immediately, or the engagement will be called off," he said, then harshly threw down the jade pendant that symbolized the engagement between the two families. My elder brother hurriedly went out to see off the Marquis of Shenping, leaving only Ruyan and me in the flower hall. Ruyan looked at the jade pendant and picked it up. What a pity, sister. Do you think Xian will really not marry you? What should we do? The wedding dress is gone too. What will you wear to get married? This was personally embroidered by your mother, Shen Tang. What I don't have, you won't have either. She stood beside me whispering, as if sharing intimate girl talk, yet every word from her mouth was malicious. She maliciously shook the jade pendant in her hand. Don't tell me you really won't be able to enter the gates of Shenping Marquis Mansion 3 days from now. I stared blankly at the jade pendant. The marriage alliance between the general of the Southern Garrison's household and the Marquis of Shenping's household was arranged many years ago. 2 years ago, my father died in battle, and soon after, my mother passed away from grief, leaving only my elder brother and me. The Marchioness of Shenping at the time, Cheng Xian's mother, insisted that the marriage contract must be honored. Cheng Xian and I grew up together since childhood sweethearts. This marriage should have been a natural progression, but who would have thought that today, for Ruyan's sake, he would want to break off the engagement? The Marquis of Shenping's household. If I can't enter, then so be it. I looked at the jade pendant in her hand and smiled. If you want it, just take it. After saying that, I turned and left with Yuna without looking back. The next day, the manager of the clothing shop delivered a new wedding dress. Beaming like a flower, the eldest young master instructed that we must choose the most beautiful, expensive, and exquisite wedding dress. Miss, is there anything you're not satisfied with? As the wedding dress was unfolded before me, I took one look and laughed. It was Ruyan's size. She was half a head shorter than me, and it was obvious at a glance. My dear elder brother truly treats Ruyan like his own sister. He even mixed up the measurements when buying a wedding dress for his sister. Yuna hugged me and cried, Miss, the eldest young master and the Marquis both favor Miss Ruyan. What should we do? I said calmly. It doesn't matter, everyone's heart is biased. If they like Ruyan, then let them have her. I took out ink and paper, wrote a letter, then retrieved a pair of jade bracelets from my jewelry box, sealed them, and handed them to Yuna. Go to the third prince's residence and give him these jade bracelets. They will let you in. Remember, you must personally deliver this into the hands of the third prince. It wasn't until nightfall that Yuna hurried back. She hastily drank a cup of tea and excitedly said to me, His Highness accepted the letter, remained silent for a moment, and then agreed. He said that in 3 days, he will bring the betrothal gifts and a grand bridal sedan to welcome you. Miss, hearing this, I fell into a long silence. In the end, he still did not refuse. The next morning, I began sorting through my belongings. All the jewelry, fabrics, and trinkets that Cheng Xian had given me over the years filled several large boxes. I had Yuna count and seal them all before storing them in the side room. As for the betrothal gifts from the Shenping Marquis Manor, aside from the ones he specifically requested to give to Ruyan, the rest were placed in the boxes along with the gift list. Untouched and exactly as they were, one day before the wedding, my elder brother came to see me with Ruyan. Looking at the new wedding dress placed on the cabinet, he said, Are you satisfied with this wedding dress? I specifically ordered the most beautiful one to ensure you wouldn't be treated unfairly. I smiled faintly. Satisfied? There's nothing to be dissatisfied with. Ruyan gently stroked the wedding dress. Cousin truly dotes on sister. This wedding dress must have cost over 1,000 taels of silver, right? My elder brother looked at her with adoring eyes and smiled. When it's your turn to marry, cousin will buy you an even more expensive and beautiful one. Ruyan looked at the neatly tidied room, covering her mouth as she laughed. Sister is getting married, yet she's cleaned up her room as if she's never coming back. I glanced up at her, and she was right, I really didn't plan on coming back. My elder brother sensed something was off but still said, How could that be? I'm her only brother. If she doesn't come back, who will stand up for her? I looked straight into his eyes and said, What does it matter whether I come back or not? In this general's manner, aren't you only a brother to Ruyan? Our parents are gone, who is left to stand up for me? Yes, he always spoke up for Ruyan. Whenever something happened between Ruyan and me, he would say, Ruyan is the younger sister, you should let her have her way. I used to argue with my brother many times because of Ruyan, but now, I suddenly don't want to argue anymore. I no longer want such a brother or such a husband. The wedding day had already arrived, yet Cheng Xian actually sent someone to ask, Has Tanga apologized to Ruyan? But this time, no one paid him any attention. The wedding procession from the Marquis of Xuanping's residence had long been blocked on another street. When he rushed over in a flustered state, he happened to see me stepping out. The red dress, the ceremonial fan, the phoenix crown, and the embroidered robe, these were all sent to me yesterday by the third prince, delivered by a palace maid. As the wedding music began, the bridal attendant sang auspicious verses for a happy marriage. Holding the ceremonial fan to cover my face, I stepped out, supported by maids on either side. Ruyan was also dressed in red today. She and her brother stood there in a daze, staring at my wedding dress, which was styled for a princess consort, unsure how to react. For blocking the eunuch's path, they were harshly scolded. Today, the third prince is marrying his principal wife. Let's not spoil the mood, everyone. I didn't even spare them a glance. Walking step by step out of the general's manor, behind me followed all the dowry my mother had left for me, 124 chests. The first chest contained the wedding dress my mother had embroidered for me. The 10-mile bridal procession, combined with the royal entourage, drew countless onlookers. Who exactly is getting married today? Isn't it the eldest daughter of the general's manor and the Marquis of Xuanping? Why is there a royal wedding procession as well? I heard there's also a cousin in their household. Could it be that the cousin has become a princess? What incredible luck! Cheng Xian's face darkened as he quietly asked his servant beside him, "Is Miss Ruyan getting married today? How come I didn't know? Go and find out immediately." As they were speaking, the announcement came from outside. "The bride is leaving the house." He looked up and saw me dressed in red. Just as he was about to step forward, he was roughly pushed aside by the third prince's guards. Zhao Chengxian dismounted from his red horse with an air of dignity. He strode over, took the matchmaker's hand, and personally helped me into the bridal sedan. Cheng Xian could no longer hold back and cried out in disbelief. How could Tanga marry the third prince? Isn't she supposed to marry me today? Zhao Chengxian turned at the sound of his voice and sternly warned, "Marquis Xuanping, be careful with your words. Today is the day I take my principal consort. How can you speak such nonsense?" Cheng Xian stepped forward and bowed, "Your Highness. Miss Shen and I have been betrothed since childhood. Today is our wedding day. How could she become your princess? There must be some misunderstanding. Tanga, quickly tell His Highness the third prince that you are supposed to marry me." From inside the bridal sedan, I heard everything clearly and spoke with unwavering resolve. "Marquis Xuanping, be careful with your words. 3 days ago, you said that if I did not apologize to Ruyan, you would break off the engagement and that I should never set foot in the Marquis Xuanping residence again. You even threw down the jade pendant that symbolized our betrothal as proof. My engagement with you has been broken off. Yesterday, the palace court officials came to my home and have already completed all the betrothal formalities. Today is the day I am to be married. I have done nothing wrong, so I did not apologize to your sister Ruyan. The engagement has been annulled. And your jade pendant is in Ruyan's hands. From now on, I and the Marquis of Xuanping shall go our separate ways in marriage. I ask the Marquis not to delay the auspicious hour for me and the third prince." Cheng Xian turned ashen, standing dumbfounded, and staggered back a few steps in shock. "No, how is this possible? How could you break off our engagement? Today was supposed to be our wedding day." He looked at the wedding dress on the first dowry and said loudly, "Look. That wedding dress, wasn't it prepared by your mother for you to wear today?" I sneered coldly. "It used to be. But have you forgotten, Lord Xuanping, your beloved Ruyan cut it to shreds, so this wedding dress can no longer be worn." I gently lifted the corner of the curtain and whispered to Zhao Chengxian, "Your Highness, let's not miss the auspicious hour." Zhao Chengxian nodded, mounted his horse, and commanded, "Lift the bridal sedan." The sounds of joy and celebration rose again in a lively chorus, the crackling of firecrackers accompanying me as I left to be married. Meanwhile, in the general's mansion, my elder brother rushed into my courtyard like a madman, only to find it completely empty. Not even a single scrap of paper remained. All the books I used to enjoy reading by the window had been cleared away, leaving only faint traces of where they once stood on the shelves. My brother stared at a scratch on the bookshelf, remembering how, as a child, I was too short to reach the higher books and would always ask for his help. He would lift me up to get them, teasing me, "When Tanga grows up, she won't need her brother's help anymore." On the tea table, There was also an old pouch. He picked it up with trembling hands. It was the pouch I had embroidered for him when I first learned needlework, but because Ruyan said she liked the pattern, he gave it to her. That day, I had a huge argument with him. It was the first pouch I had ever made for him, embroidered with the bamboo he loved, and my fingers were pricked full of holes while making it. Yet, such a precious pouch was casually given to Ruyan by him, who said, "It's just a pouch, if Ruyan likes it, let her have it." And on the very day Ruyan received it, she accidentally dropped it into the lake. I was so angry that I forced her to go down and retrieve it, but she collapsed sobbing into my brother's arms, whimpering, "Cousin, I really didn't mean to, I'll embroider another one for you." Okay, sister is so angry, but I didn't do it on purpose. It's not that Yanga doesn't want to go into the lake to retrieve it, it's just that, I've just recovered from a cold and can't touch cold water. My brother, his face ashen with anger, scolded me for being unreasonable and ordered me to return to my courtyard to copy books and calm my mind. I ran back to my courtyard in tears. That evening, I went with my maid to retrieve the pouch myself, but it was already soaked beyond recognition. Now, it lies on the desktop like a piece of trash, no longer cherished by anyone. My brother thought for a moment, then rushed to the storeroom. My personal nanny stood there, as if she had anticipated his arrival. The nanny handed him a key. "Young master," the young lady instructed, "that this is the key to the estate storeroom." She only took the dowry left to her by the late madam, a total of 124 chests. The dowry list is here, everything else belongs to the general's estate. The dowry you prepared for the young lady, she didn't take a single item. These crates are for Lord Shenping, please deliver them, young master. The young lady has also left an inventory list. You may carefully check it, young master. Now that I have delivered the message, I must return to report to the young lady. I take my leave. Ruyan hurried up from behind, panting. "Cousin," seeing the wide-open storeroom with half the boxes gone, she shrieked, "How could this be? How could sister take so many things from the estate?" The elder brother stared blankly. "That was left to her by mother." Ruyan's eyes were filled with jealousy. "Even if it was left by the madam, you should have a share too. You are the heir of the general's manor." Cheng Jian rushed in, grabbing the elder brother and asking, "Elder brother, why did Tanga marry the third prince? Why?" And Ruyan timidly took out a jade pendant. "Marquis, this was left by my sister. She said the marriage alliance between the two families is hereby annulled." When did she manage to get close to the third prince? Did she deliberately provoke the Marquis into breaking off the engagement so she could marry into the royal family? As soon as the words were spoken, both of them looked at her simultaneously. Her brother shook his head with certainty, saying, "No, she's not that kind of person." Her brother slumped down in a daze, still unable to accept the reality. "Tanga was perfectly fine yesterday, how could she suddenly end up like this? She used to tell me everything before. Why didn't she say anything about such a big matter this time?" Cheng Jian grabbed him frantically and yelled, "What did you do to Tanga?" My elder brother shook his head, "I didn't." But his voice grew softer and softer. "Didn't he?" He thought carefully. It seemed he had done something wrong. But what was it? It was he who gave my wedding dress to Ruyan, and then it got cut up. Usually, I endured his favoritism toward Ruyan, but this time was different. He had never seen such a look in his sister's eyes before, as if she wanted to sever all ties with him. He clearly saw me crying sadly while holding the wedding dress. "My mother embroidered this for me. That was the last blessing my mother left before she died." How could he be so despicable? He clutched his chest, as if in unbearable pain. Ever since Ruyan arrived, he had pitied her circumstances and had been taking extra care of her. If Ruyan wanted Tanga's courtyard, he made her give it up. If Ruyan wanted her clothes, he made her give them up. If Ruyan wanted everything she had, he made her give it all away. But he forgot that Shentang was also just a child, only a few months older than Ruyan, and she too needed her brother's care. Now, she had finally given even her own brother to Ruyan. He covered his face, letting tears stream through his fingers. It was he who had pushed away his only sister, pushed her far away, never to return. Ruyan sat nearby and cautiously said, "But the Marquis has already come to welcome the bride. Now that sister has married the third prince, what is to be done about the Marquis?" She lowered her head, her face flushed, and said, "What should we do now? How about, I take sister's place in the bridal sedan chair, just to get through today." Cheng Jian and his elder brother both looked up at her as if they had never known her before. She looked completely bewildered and asked, "What's wrong? Did I say something wrong?" Cheng Jian shook his head with a pale face. "No, no. I've sworn that in this life, I will only marry Tanga. Besides her, I won't marry anyone else." His cold rejection made Ruyan blush with embarrassment, her eyes filled with tears. But this time, no one had the heart to comfort her. He remembered how, 3 days ago, he had thrown down the jade pendant and forced me to apologize, and he wished he could slap himself. But none of that mattered anymore. The letter to the third prince, along with the pair of jade rings, was given to me by my maternal grandfather and grandmother. They were the tokens of their engagement back in the day. When I was young, I lived at my maternal grandparents' home. Although life at the border was simple and harsh, the people were honest and sincere. Zhao Chengshuan's mother was demoted, and he was implicated. Since childhood, he was sent to the border by his father, who did not favor him. My maternal grandfather was the Duke of Zhenghua, commanding 100,000 troops of the imperial court, holding a high position of power. Due to his long-standing friendship with Zhao Chengshuan's maternal family, he often showed care for this young prince who had been demoted. He was 5 years older than me, taking me to catch fish in the river and birds in the mountains. There was no mischievous deed the two of us couldn't come up with. When I grew a little older, my parents brought me back to the capital, and from then on, I lost contact with the third prince. It wasn't until the year my father passed away that he, having earned military merits and been infeft as a prince, returned to the capital. His first act was to request my hand in marriage. When the Shenping Marquis's family was in decline, the lady never broke the agreement, so my mother couldn't very well refuse this marriage. Besides, with the current struggle for the throne in the capital, how could the Shen family get involved? So she turned him down. When Zhao Chengxian received my letter, he never imagined I was here to propose. After a moment of stunned silence, he quickly realized that I must have run into some trouble. Although there were only 3 days, he had prepared everything quite thoroughly. My elder brother pointed to several chests and said to Cheng Jian, "These are from Tanga for you. Take them away." Cheng Jian returned to the Shenping Marquis mansion in a daze with the box. When he opened it, he froze. Inside were all the things he had given me over the years, returned without a single item missing. Even the betrothal gifts were sent back untouched. Cheng Jian slumped beside the box, knowing he had lost me forever. Both him and my elder brother, I want neither of them anymore. Although Zhao Chengxian married me in a hurry, the current empress is his aunt. She dotes on him and naturally wanted to fulfill his wishes. Moreover, I am connected to the Shen family and the Duke of Zhenggua's residence, which is highly advantageous in the struggle for the throne. Thus, she strongly advocated for this marriage in front of His Majesty. Half a month later, at the Grand Princess's birthday banquet, the ministers brought their families to offer congratulations. As the newly appointed princess consort, I was immediately surrounded by noble ladies offering their compliments as soon as I entered the palace. One of the ladies whispered to me, "Do you know what that cousin from your general's residence has done?" I looked at her in confusion, while another lady nearby chimed in. I heard she was holding the Marquis of Xuanping's jade pendant and demanded that he marry her. Of course, the Marquis was unwilling. How could he marry an orphan girl? But guess what happened next? She ended up banging her head against the pillar of the Marquis of Xuanping's residence. The Marquis had no choice. He insisted the jade pendant wasn't meant for her, but she was holding it and threatening to kill herself. Fearing a tragedy, the Marquis had no option but to agree to let her enter his household. A lady exclaimed in surprise. So she married the Marquis of Shenping as his wife. The lady curled her lip and said, "How could that be? She was only taken in as a concubine. If she wasn't willing, she could have just died by banging her head. He wouldn't have cared." That Miss Ruyan entered the Marquis of Xuanping's residence that very night. I asked softly, "Isn't An Ruyan cherished by the young general? How could he bear to make her a concubine? Given my brother's affection for Ruyan, how could he possibly bear to make her a concubine?" After listening to the lady's idle chatter, I finally understood. It turned out that my brother had taken the account books from the treasury and discovered that the numbers didn't add up. Only then did he realize that over the years since Ruyan entered the household, she had been secretly selling many treasures from the treasury. She has always been favored, to the point where she doesn't even regard the legitimate daughters with respect. The stewards didn't dare refuse her. And all she had to do was shed a few tears in front of my brother to get whatever she wanted. My elder brother only realized after looking at the accounts that I, the legitimate young lady of the general's mansion, spent less in a month than my cousin spent in just a few days. Every day, she insists on having bird's nest soup, and for her skincare, she uses the most expensive pearl cream, costing dozens of taels for a small jar that lasts only a few days. It's nothing short of squandering money like dirt. I once expressed my dissatisfaction with Ruyan's extravagance, but before I could even finish speaking, she burst into tears, sobbing uncontrollably. "Cousin, it's all my fault. I know I don't deserve to use these things, they're meant for noble young ladies. I only saw my sister using it on her hands once and thought it was something cheap. I didn't know." I couldn't help but laugh in disbelief. If it weren't for the fact that my right hand was injured and the doctor said using some pearl cream could help reduce scarring, I wouldn't even have used it on my face normally. My elder brother only comforted Ruyan. "All right. Your cousin has instructed the servants to purchase more for you. Once you run out, just have them buy more. How much could it possibly cost?" He then looked at me. "Tanga, you are so extravagant, using such expensive face cream just for your hands. It seems I have spoiled you too much. Starting tomorrow, you are not allowed to use it anymore." And so, Ruyan lived in the general's mansion like a true young lady. My elder brother looked at the deficit in the account book and regretted his earlier decisions. He took the ledger and went to find Ruyan. Ruyan flushed crimson and screamed, "Just because I'm an orphan, you pin all the blame on me when the accounts don't match. I never deserved to use these things in the first place. I'm not a proper young lady, so how could I possibly be worthy of such items?" My brother suddenly came to his senses. Every single time, whenever Ruyan acted like this, he would let it slide lightly. How many times had he wronged me because of this? How many times had he made me suffer unjustly? He watched as Ruyan wiped her tears and said calmly, "Tomorrow, I will have someone find a suitable family for you and provide you with a dowry. There's no need for you to stay in the general's manor any longer. It's time for you to marry." Ruyan pleaded desperately. "Cousin, please don't abandon me. I know I was wrong. I'll be obedient from now on, I promise. Please don't send me away." Her brother had made up his mind and, no longer willing to watch her feign misery, turned and left. Ruyan watched her brother's retreating figure, gritting her teeth in frustration. "I won't let you dismiss me like this." The next day, she took Cheng Jian's jade pendant and managed to get herself into the Shenping Marquis's household as a concubine. I let out a long sigh, never expecting that in the end it would be Ruyan who married into the Shenping Marquis's household. Just as I was thinking, I looked up and saw Cheng Jian walking in, followed closely by Ruyan. She wore heavy makeup, adorned with gold and silver, as if afraid others wouldn't know of the wealth of the Shenping Marquis manor. Cheng Jian looked at me with an unreadable expression, his voice strained as he asked, "Tanga, are you all right?" Before he could ask a second question, Ruyan stepped forward from behind, tightly clutching his sleeve, and looked at me with a smug expression, saying, "Sister." The palace maid scolded, "How dare you? What status do you have to call the princess consort sister? Hurry and pay your respects." Ruyan's face instantly turned pale, and she immediately knelt on the ground. "Greetings to the princess consort." I looked coldly at her kneeling, then turned my gaze to Cheng Jian and said clearly, "Marquis of Shenping, this is the birthday banquet of the princess. What is your intention in bringing a concubine here?" After saying this, I ignored them and walked past. The long hem of my skirt brushed past Ruyan, and she glared with jealousy, her eyes instantly turning red. The mocking voices of the ladies nearby surged like a tide. Lord Shenping truly has no shame, bringing a concubine into the princess's residence, a lone girl from the countryside, after a few years of good living in the capital, has forgotten her place. It's laughable. Look at the way she curtsies, completely lacking in etiquette. We should keep our distance, lest we catch her misfortune. The princess and she don't get along. We mustn't get involved. Ruyan's face turned red and pale with embarrassment, but she had no choice but to listen, because this was her true identity and status, a concubine, an orphan girl. What kind of waves could she possibly stir up, upon hearing that the Marquis of Shenping had been disrespectful in front of me? Zhao Chengxian hurried over, took my hand, and asked me softly. Cheng Jian watched from afar, gritting his teeth, and drank himself into a stupor. nearly making a fool of himself in front of the nobles, the Princess Royal. Upon hearing that Lord Shenping had brought his concubine to congratulate her on her birthday, immediately threw his gifts out, almost calling the guards to drive him away. I exchanged smiles with a few ladies, treating it as nothing more than an amusing after-dinner story. As we were leaving the princess's residence, Zhao Chengxian and I walked ahead and saw Lord Shenping standing by his carriage, venting his anger. Ruyan couldn't support him and was pushed away with a slap. "Get lost, you disgraceful thing. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have lost Tanga, and I wouldn't be the laughingstock of everyone." I lifted the carriage curtain and saw Ruyan staring at me. I gave a cold smile, watching as her eyes shot daggers of jealousy, in high spirits. I greeted her, then she dropped the curtain and strode away. Upon hearing the rumors, the mother of the Marquis of Shenping scolded Cheng Jian angrily. "I told you back then that you and Tanga were a perfect match, but you didn't cherish it. You mistook a fisheye for a pearl, let a good wife slip away, and brought in such a spendthrift. She has completely disgraced our Marquis of Shenping's household. Since you are so hopeless, I will take charge of your future marriage. We must find someone capable and respectable to be your principal wife, so she can keep that vixen in check." Ruyan collapsed weeping in the courtyard, clutching Cheng Jian's sleeve and saying that the old lady looked down on the poor and fawned on the rich, despising her for being an orphan with no family support. But this time, he didn't manage to control Cheng Jian. He looked at her calmly and said indifferently, "If I had come to my senses earlier, things wouldn't be like this." After saying this, he left the inner courtyard and moved to the study in the outer courtyard. Soon, it was heard that the Marquis of Shenping was going to marry, and the bride was Wang Chan, the legitimate daughter of General Weihu. General Weihu was as mighty as his name suggested, and his daughter took after her father. She had been on the battlefield and was capable of riding horses and killing enemies. Of course, when it came to matters of the household, her stance had always been that whoever had the stronger fist was in the right. If she hadn't been delayed and become an old maid, she would never have looked favorably upon the Marquis of Shenping. However, her younger siblings were growing up, and if she didn't marry soon, she would end up delaying her younger sisters. She had no choice but to bring dozens of armed maids and reluctantly marry him. On the first day Wang Chan married into the Marquis household. Ruyan wanted to put her in her place on the Marquis' wedding night by pretending to have a stomachache in the middle of the night, demanding that the Marquis come see her. She thought she was still being pampered, but she didn't expect that Cheng Jian had long grown tired of her, and Wang Chan was no pushover either. Wang Chan simply sent her personal maid to check on her. Her personal maid had followed her onto the battlefield and entered Ruyan's courtyard with an intimidating aura. She called in several doctors to examine her all night and forced her to drink several large bowls of bitter medicine. By the time the Marquis remembered to visit her 2 days later, she was genuinely ill. After taking multiple doses of medicine each day, she had practically turned into a medicine jar. From then on, whenever Ruyan caused trouble, Wang Chan would have the maid call a physician to examine her pulse and even assign someone specifically to brew medicine for her in the courtyard, making her drink several doses every day. From then on, Ruyan was terrified at the sight of Wang Chan, wishing she could hide and never be seen by her again. Gradually, no one ever mentioned Ruyan again, as if she had vanished into thin air. The Shenping Marquis estate became quieter than ever before. With almost no scheming or infighting in the inner household, the Marquis even thought his wife was exceptionally virtuous and caring toward the concubines, and from then on, he began to treat her with genuine sincerity. As for my elder brother, after I got married, he came to the prince's residence a few times to request an audience with me, but I refused every time. I thought of that wedding dress that could never be mended. He was no longer the brother who doted on me, and I no longer wished to see him. Frequent battles broke out at the border, so he volunteered to go there. Before leaving, he met with Zhao Chengxian, said a few words, and left a letter for me. When His Highness handed me the letter, he only said, "My brother looks extremely regretful. Would you like to meet with him?" I looked at the letter but did not open it. Instead, I burned it to ashes over the candle flame. His Highness asked me, "Aren't you going to see what's written inside?" I shook my head. "There's no need, it's just some after-the-fact regret. The wounds are already there, and no amount of regret is useful. I don't want to forgive, so there's no need to read it." A few years later, Zhao Chengxuan's influence grew stronger. After several battles, he successfully entered the Eastern Palace, and I became the crown princess. 5 years later, the crown prince ascended the throne, and I became the empress, the most noble woman in the world. My brother, who had inherited our father's prestige, sent a letter with only one line: "If my sister is well, I am willing to guard the border for His Majesty forever." The young prince in my arms pointed at the letter and asked, "Mother, why are you crying?" I said, "Because mother remembered your uncle. Haven't you always wondered why you've never seen him?" That is a very long story. After hearing the 2 stories above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.